Howdy folks, thanks for joining me today for another episode of Porch Talk here at Cedar Creek Homestead. I'm Howie and so glad to have you today. I just want to talk to you for just a few minutes here. Today I'm calling it the State of the Union. So we always get a State of the Union from the President, but this is Howie's State of the Union as of June 2020 and the way I see things. And so I want to talk a little bit with you today about the food shortages, food concerns, economic concerns, and of course the protesting concerns that are going on today. And if you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. If you'd like to help our channel out, that would greatly help us. If you would make a comment, we'd love to hear your comments. I always enjoy reading those, and if you give us a thumbs up, all of those things help our channel. Sometimes folks are interested in being able to help us out, and that's the way you can do it. And it don't cost anything. It's free, so that's I always like free. Well, anyway, start off first today about the economy. And I think I just can't help but believe, and I have shared this on other videos, that we are going to head into, it may take a little while, but we're going to head into a deep economic downfall. For sure, a recession, and I really think we're headed into a depression. And you say, well, are you trying to scare everybody? No, I'm not. I'm not trying to scare folks, just that we should be concerned and take notice. And now would be the time to prepare yourself to get ready in case it comes to pass. It's not just me saying that. There are many experts that are saying that they just don't see how we can shut down our country and not have economic consequences from it, also worldwide consequences. So it's not just something that's going to happen here. In fact, I believe we're going to be going into a biblical scenario that's the Bible talks about in the book of Revelations. If we don't, and I'm wrong, hey, fine. It's not the end of the world. If it is the end of the world, though, I want to do my part. And I have felt for a long time that this day was coming. For probably at least 15 years now, I have felt that very strong urgency to start getting prepared. And I feel like, for the most part, we were ready for it when it come here. But anyway, we're definitely, I think, headed into some rough times. And but I do think for right now, the economy it's just not. It's looking better, if I can say that, if that makes sense. And I'll tell you why. We have a Love's truck stop, and I know it's not going to be. You can't find this as a major economic indicator, but. Over here across the river, there's a Love's travel stop, and that place has been a booming business. It's just unbelievable. They redone it, and where it's located on Interstate 40, it's kind of just right in the right area to be perfectly situated, strategically located to be good for the truck drivers and for travelers. And that place brings in a lot of money. And the little town there that it's located in, Weber Falls, pretty much that's the only real major business that it has. We had a rain while ago too, by the way, and you hear this dripping, and I keep looking over thinking it's something where it's just water. We needed the rain, and thank the Lord. But anyway, their main business is this Love's Travel Stop, and they make a lot of tax revenue off of that particular business. And every month in our newspaper, we'll report the tax revenue, how much sales went on in that town. All the towns, but that particular town I watch because pretty much the tax revenue's coming from this one source, and it is a lot of sales they make. Well, when I looked back when this Kung Flu started and they were shutting everything down, their sales tax revenue went way down, the sales in that town. And when you would go over there, if you went there and bought gas or anything, that store just, gas was cheaper, but there just wasn't any. Usually you have to wait in line to get gas there. And they put new pumps, a bunch more pumps for gas. They have diesel pumps. They put in a whole separate deal around back for diesel for the truck drivers. Even that was not nothing like normal. Usually the trucks are just lined up coming in and going out of that place, and they park there and they come in and eat. They got a big parking area. And it still had some, but not near as many. And during this Kung Flu time, it really went down. So you had less truck drivers, you had less travelers, so it meant a lot of less tax revenue, because our state charges taxes on all that fuel, plus all the people buying food there. It's got a Burger King, it's got a Subway in there, plus they have the Loves has their own little thing there. Well, all that really went down, and you can see it by the numbers. But now, and we'll know for sure in July what June's numbers are, but we went over there a couple of times lately to buying gas or coming by, and that place is packed out. Truck drivers, travelers. We got gas there one day, me and my son, and it was a deal to get into one of the pumps. There's so many people there. So and there's no way for our local area that our local area don't even need that as far as to buy gas, because we have other smaller stations and things. But just to tell you, the economy is back going again, and I think there's other things that I've looked at and noticed. So I think our economy is coming back, but I still believe with the government giving out all this money and all these people on unemployment and all the things that's going on, in the long-term scheme of things, we're going to have some trouble ahead. And I think troublesome waters are ahead for us as a nation and as a world. I just don't think we can keep from it. And I think we're going to see inflation and stuff. Wages have went up for most people, according to the numbers, the past several years. But those wages increases are all going to be taken up by inflation. So, it's going to get harder, and I believe it's going to be harder to buy groceries and pay the utilities and pay the bills. And I think some people, if you're upside down already financially, are going to see yourself in a worse problem. So if you can come up with a solution, like Dave Ramsey is a guy that gives financial counseling, a Christian man. If you can follow him and find out some way to get your finances in order. There's other people out there, but do sound biblical principles with your finances. And one of the big things is just get out of debt if you can. And you're not going to be able to get out of debt overnight, so it's going to take some time. Think about before you go into debt, just common sense things to be thinking about, because I do believe we're headed into some serious times, financially speaking. Also, I want to talk a little bit, and I've covered the economic thing too, so this is kind of an update before. But the other thing is our food supply, and still the food supply is... there's some supply chain issues, and I have heard that a lot of the plants that process meat are getting back up closer. I've read and heard, I subscribe to a lot of different farming and ranching magazines. I watch farming and ranching programs, but supposedly they're getting back up to somewhat normalcy in their slaughtering of beef, poultry, and pork. But there is still a supply deficit, and I don't understand what's going on unless people's just hoarding it up. But from our very own store here, and I visited with the store manager here, we have a grocery store that's a chain of grocery stores. It's kind of a big deal, and I visited with the manager this week, and he said he's never seen anything like it. But some stuff that'll end up being short that they can't get, that you don't understand why there's a shortage. Like meat, we understand that some of the plants were shut down or half shut down or whatever, but still, there is the meat shelves. I've never seen the bare shelves back, like lunch meats and stuff like that, and different things that are even out. Usually in bad times, there's always plenty of bologna, and they didn't even have no bologna. When I went by today for Josie and to get a few things, and we were going to have sandwiches, and she had stuff here, but I thought I'd stop by and get a couple of things to go along with them. And I hadn't been in a store for a while, and I kind of like to go in and see what's going on. And I couldn't believe the stuff, the empty shelves and the empty meat shelves and things. And like I say, I just visited this week with the store manager there, and he was telling me that some things are hard to get, and then some things that you'd think there'd be plenty of, there won't be, and in one week they may be plenty of one thing and the next week not. So it's just a strange situation we're in right now. But I was very shocked at, and one thing, we were going to have sandwiches, so I wanted some of this noodle salad stuff. Maybe it's called macaroni salad. Josie will get after me for not knowing what you call it. But anyway, you go back and you buy it in a little plastic tub. And I thought, boy, that would be good for lunch today to go along with, because we was going to have sandwiches. And so I thought I'd get a package of potato chips and a deal of this noodle salad. And I went back there, and usually they have potato salad, several different varieties. All of that stuff was gone. They had 3 or 4 of these little containers of the macaroni salad stuff, and I think they had 4 of them, and it's $3.99 for a little tub that big. And of course, Josie, she could make homemade of that stuff that's just out of this world. And but I knew she wouldn't want to today. It's hot, and we've been working outside and doing things, so I knew that she wouldn't feel like, cooking the noodles and doing all that stuff, and I didn't even want to ask her to do something like that. So I said I'd just pick up a deal, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, $4.99? You can buy a whole package of elbow macaronis. You could for $1. I don't know what it is now. They may be $4 for a package of noodles. I don't know. I just was shocked today at paying that kind of money. And they had a sticker up there that said that was the sell price, but they didn't hardly have any. People's buying all that stuff out, and even things back in the refrigerated section, there's a lot of bare looking stuff. It's just surprising to me. So it concerns me that we are in what we are now. We raised garden, and we just took a beef off to butcher and some stuff like that, and we're waiting to get him back. So we'd actually ran out of our own fresh homegrown beef, but we've got chickens that could be killed. We've got turkeys we could eat, wild game here. So it's not like we're starving. And I don't know around here, when I say food shortages, I may say more of food concerns, because in our neck of the woods here, I've not heard of anyone going hungry or doing without. And a guy called me the other day about his freezer had went out, and he had it full of meat, and he found what he called the good stuff, his home processed beef and stuff. He was able to move it in, rearrange another freezer he had, but a lot of the stuff he called friends and different people and put the rest in the others, and it's a big upright refrigerator. But anyway, he was concerned, and he told me, he said, this meat thing, he said that they were concerned about how it is, but he said when he was raised up, he's raised like I was, you lived off of deer and squirrels and rabbits, wild hogs, and we even raised our own meat. So he said, I could go back to that. He said, as many squirrels and rabbits and things as we have, he said, I don't want to go back to eating that, but I would if we had to. And I think most of us are in that same situation that we would do it if we had to. And I actually love a good old fried rabbit or a good old fried squirrel. We just don't have it much anymore because we usually have plenty of beef, and beef is my number one choice of meat. If you haven't caught on yet, I'm a beef rancher, but I love beef. Next thing I wanted to talk about a little bit, but in regards to the meat situation, it's not just meat, it's vegetables, a lot of different things, dried beans and stuff, but being prepared. And we can't grow, I can't say we can't grow, we don't grow all of the beans that we need and all that stuff, so it doesn't bother us to buy beans. We'll buy them in 50-pound sacks and store back. They'll last you a long time. They're a good keeper. Some buy rice in 50-pound bags. We don't eat a lot of rice, but we do eat some. But you can prepare even if you don't grow a garden and stuff. But the around here, back on the food shortage thing, or update on that, is they're having trouble here getting freezers. And we have already mentioned this before, but I've talked to some of the business owners that sell appliances around here, and they say that they just can't get freezers, and that some people are buying refrigerators, like top mount refrigerators, and they think they can turn them really cold and it will freeze, and that doesn't do the job. That won't work. So they're having some trouble with that. But you can just getting freezers is hard, and people are actually having them repaired versus replacing a lot because they just can't get one. Also around here, garden tillers. It's very hard to get a garden tiller. Our places here that sell plants, like from Bonnie's Nursery and places like that, have sold out, and sold out early. Now Lowe's and them, I noticed they still get, and I don't know if it's because they still have maybe because they're so big they get first in line, but a lot of them, they told me one reason, one store, their place that raised the plants like tomatoes and even flowering plants and stuff, that they couldn't get people to work because of the COVID. They was afraid people were of coming in and getting sick, so they ran short-handed on employees, so they weren't able to get as much stuff going, and they sold out early. So a lot of them will put up these little temporary greenhouses and stuff, and this one particular store owner usually they make a big bunch of money each year off of selling all these little starter plants and stuff like that. Well, this year, because they just weren't available for different reasons, and he said what they did get just sold just as quick as they could get. Seeds, they've sold out of seeds, a lot of things. So this fall we plan on buying seeds for next year. So if you can get them, I've still got some seeds left over from that I bought last fall that we didn't use all for this year, and I'll probably replant a fall garden this year. But I may have to learn how to save seeds. There's a lot of people do that, and that's a good thing to have. Anyway, I meant sorry about that little ad on there, but that's just about some updates here on our food concerns that we have. The other things about the rioting, and I wanted to say about that, I'm not going to get real deep into the rioting, or I'm going to try not to. One of our constitutional rights is to protest. Protesting is different than rioting. And, as a citizen, and I'm just going to tell you around here, the man that was killed by the police, or allegedly killed by the police, we're innocent until proven guilty, and the police officer deserves his day in court just like I would, or anybody else. So I'm not passing judgment, but when you watch the video, it didn't look good. But what I'm going to say about that is we need law enforcement people, and we all have a right to protest, peaceably assemble and protest. But when you go to burning down buildings and stealing things and doing stuff, to me it brings out a lot of thugs and people when they get out of order. There's a lot of people come in. One of our neighboring towns down here had buses come in and bring people from out of state. I don't like that. They were meaning to cause trouble, but that town got prepared, and the citizens weren't going to put up with it, and they loaded up and come on to another town, is what I've been told. They don't know for sure. I think they went to Tulsa or Oklahoma City, and those buses, someone paid to get those bus loads of people here from big cities. We're a peaceful, God-fearing group here. I've talked to a lot of people. I've not talked to anyone here, no one, that felt like this man, that everybody thought that it looked bad. What we seen on that little film that someone had with their phone of this man being killed, everybody thought that was bad. But we don't all go protest. One thing, we have to work and stuff. But when they go to protesting and they become rioters, we're not for that here. And I don't think anybody is. I know people that's Democrats, Republicans, blacks, Indians, whites, all different races. It don't matter what color you are, but they felt like this man wasn't done right. But they also, around here, everybody is opposed to rioting. They feel everybody has a right, though, to assemble and protest, and say, hey, we don't like this, and let people know. But otherwise, this isn't all America. It's not wanting the police done away with. There's a bunch of stuff being said to get rid of the police, and cities are going to get rid of the police. I'm going to tell you, it will be the ruination of our country. And if it's being backed by the Democrat Party, and if it does, it will sure enough give, it'll be a landslide victory for law and order. I'm just going to say that. So if they want to go that route, but we are for law enforcement. But the law does need to be kept in check. I have to say I agree with that. But the unruly, unlawful things that's going on, and people, right now there's a big move saying they want to do away with law enforcement, or they want to tie their hands. We need our law enforcement. If you're breaking the law, I don't care what color you are, law ought to be color blind. We all ought to be color blind, and the law should be. And so no matter what, if you do the crime, you ought to do the time, no matter what your color is. You shouldn't get preference regardless. And I could go on that, but I'm just going to say that one nice thing of living in a rural area is we haven't had to put up with this. The little towns around here have met and come up with contingency plans if they came in. I think the reason that they headed on out of this one particular town was because there was no news media, Fox, CNN, NBC, none of those places was there to cover them, so they headed on. And plus, I think they realized the citizens weren't going to put up with it. To peaceably protest, that's one thing. We had something happen here. I was just going to tell you about the rioting or protesting. We have a nuclear plant that was here. They've closed it down, but it processed uranium, employed people here and stuff. Well, it was good paying jobs and things. Well, one time on the news, they said that the citizens, ABC News, Evening News, they had the citizens of our community here were protesting this plant. And they showed pictures of all these campers down there by that plant. People had tents set up along the road, all these cars, they were camping out there, and said the local residents were up in arms, all upset about this plant. And so I didn't know anyone that had went down there and protested. And but the news portrayed it that way. So I was mentioning it to somebody. We would gather down at the coffee shop in the mornings, and I was telling them, I said, did you see on the news all the people gathered down there from our little local towns here protesting? And they said, that ain't none of our people. Said, go down there and look at the car tags. Look who's down there. You won't know anybody there, and it's out-of-state tags. And sure enough, we go down there, and I did, and drove by and looked. I didn't recognize anybody. And we're small town America. I mean, you would recognize somebody there. And I looked at the car tags, and it was California, Colorado, Arizona, places like that, not around here, that had came here and protested, but the news made it look like that our whole community was up in arms. And that isn't the case here. And I also believe that if the election was held today, I believe that Donald Trump would win in a landslide victory. Now, that's not going to set well with some people, but I believe that is exactly what would happen. And I think that the Democrat Party is scared to death that they know the facts. And we keep hearing on the news that these reports of they've done these polls. Well, I never get polled. I never talk to anybody that's gotten polled. So where are they polling at? I think they're polling in the inner cities and stuff. And there, Trump would probably lose in the big cities. But I think in rural America, just like he did before, he'll carry it and he'll gain some more states and he'll get more electoral votes. They're really working hard, I think, to tear us down, to destroy our country. I don't want to make this a Democrat, Republican thing, but I have a lot of friends here that are of Democrat Party. I'm a Republican. I was started out as a Democrat, switched and went to Republican. But I have a lot of friends that are Democrats that have told me they've switched parties. Our local paper here, I don't know how it is in the rest of the state of Oklahoma, but there's been reports in the local paper from the Secretary County Clerk's office that takes care of this, and they say that they haven't told which party they switched to, but I know what party. It's went from Democrat to Republican because I've had tons of people tell me that they've done this, and I've heard that other states are the same way, but our actual secretary here has said that they have never seen anything like it, people switching parties. It has been very, very busy time for them, and and I've heard so many tell me that they were switching people that have been Democrats for years, and it's because people are I think they want law and order. There's people that there's certain things that they want that their party would have for them, but when they go to against law and order, and they go to trying to try the president and tie the country like they've been doing, people have been outraged. And I think if the election was held today, it would surprise them. I believe it would be a landslide victory like Ronald Reagan had. And so just saying, if you are one and you feel like you're a minority because you watch the national news and they tell you, oh, it's just horrible that Biden is way ahead, and that the whole America is rioting. No, all of America is not rioting. There are a lot of people that are protesting. They may not be out in the street carrying banners, but they're protesting what's going on. There's a lot of silent protesters out here, such as myself, that don't like what's going on, and we're going to protest or show it when we go to the ballot box. I'll just explain that. There's a lot of folks that's going to show it, and they're going to make sure they show up to the ballot box this fall. And that's one of the freedoms we have here, is that you can vote whatever party you want, whatever it is. I'm just laying out the facts the way I see them here. But nonetheless, regardless of the political unrest and stuff like that, everybody should be treated equally. And I try to do that. I have friends of all different colors and races, and I have a really good friend that is a black man, and I just think the world of him. And I'll tell you what, if I needed him tonight, I think I could call him. I won't mention his name on air because I just ain't going to do it. But this guy is one of the best. And if I needed him and I called him, I think he'd be out here in a heartbeat. And if he needed me, I'd be there to help him. And race doesn't have nothing to do about it. He's a good guy. I'm a good guy. And his wife and children are just the best people. And I just tell you, if the whole world was like him, it'd be a whole lot better place. But as far as racism, I know all kinds of people, races, but I know good and bad in every race. And there is good and bad in all people. And there is a few, there's a lot of police officers, and there are a few bad police officers. You're going to find good and bad in everyone, even including police officers. A lot of my family and relatives are in law enforcement, and I am concerned about them. I love them. All of my friends, family that I know are in law enforcement are good people. I don't have a question about them, but I know there are some bad actors, and if they're bad actors, they need to be dealt with individually. But to totally try to do away with law enforcement, or towns that are saying they're not going to fund the law, or they're going to tie their hands more and stuff, that would be a terrible mistake. It'll be a terrible mistake politically, but it'll also be a terrible mistake morally, and the way we have to live in our country. It would get bad. It'll get, it's gotten to where you feel like you can go to a big city like St. Louis or New York and be relatively safe. I've always been afraid to go, but I felt like the past few years that you could kind of go there and probably be all right. Now, if they take away the law enforcement and stuff, I'm telling you, even my local town here, and it's got a bunch of good people, but we have some bad folks, and we need our law enforcement officers here in our town. Anyway, I certainly appreciate you watching today, and I believe we're in the Bible days. I think we're in the last days of the Bible days. I'll put it to you that way. And it says in the last days that because iniquity shall abound, the love of many will wax cold. And it's in Matthew 24. And iniquity is sin. People sinning, going against God, going against God's word. And because Satan basically will rule and reign so much, people's going to lose their love for one another. And when you see this, when people act in certain ways, that they've lost their love for others, and all they care about is themselves, and that's when we start seeing things begin to fall apart. And when we lose our love, and I don't want to lose my love for other people, no matter what, I want to hang on to this and have a love for everybody, and we all need to be doing that very thing, having a love for everybody. And when there are bad people, they need to be dealt with, and that's just the way it is. If I'm speeding, it's about the worst thing I've ever done is get speeding tickets. But if I'm speeding and I get pulled over, I deserve what I get. But I deserve to be treated as a citizen, and my rights should not be trampled on as well. Hey, I appreciate you watching today. Once again, God bless you, and we'll see you next time here at Cedar Creek Homestead. If you're not a subscriber, hit the subscribe button. If you got a comment, comment. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up. Once again, we're gone.